We're making the TTC the better way. One step, one station, one bus stop at a time.
Can Toronto improve transit without transferring the cost?
Tonight, a new year, a new spending plan. The TTC reveals its route to a better commute. Good evening. The city's promising to freeze fares in 2025.
And improve the ride for people who rely on this service. But where will the money come from? CTV's Sean Leathong joins us live with the details. Sean.
Well, Michelle and Nathan, the money is not coming from people's pockets. They say that the service is going to go up, so the cost is going to fall on the city.
There will be better service, cleaner stations, and a fare freeze. Mayor Olivia Chow saying,
We're making the TTC the better way. One step, one station, one bus stop at a time.
the total cost of the proposed 2025 TTC budget is $2.819 billion. That's an increase of $85.1 million or 6.5%. Chow saying they'll be able to pay for the increase through the property tax base and
the rest of the gross dollars come from a combination of provincial investment through the New Deal and also for transit riders, because the more people take public transit, guess what? The more revenue we're going to get.
The actual breakdown, according to the budget, is 49% city funding, 38% passenger revenue, 7% provincial funding, with 4% and 2% from ancillary revenue and reserves. The plan to increase service includes hiring more operators to help a guarantee of 5-minute subway service in off-peak hours along lines 1 and 2, along with a return to 6-minute service on line 4. A guarantee of 6-minute service for streetcars along Dundas, St. Clair, and Bathurst, all to be in place by the fall. There's also the expectation that both the Eglinton Crosstown LRT and Finch West LRT will open this year. As for buses,
you know how infuriating it is when the buses are bunched together? And you wait and wait and wait and nothing comes, and then boom, 3 of them showed up at the same time.
The TTC aims to create a pilot project that will focus on the 10 worst routes for bus bunching, and
we're actually going to fix our stations. Everybody talks about it, but now we're actually going to do it.
With $50 million for station rehabilitation, including creating a new position of station manager to ensure each station runs smoothly, and a particular focus on 6 stations: Kennedy, Scarborough Town Centre, Lansdowne, Dundas, Finch, and Spadina.
And this is also the first time in a budget we've actually set a target to reduce fare evasion by $12 million.
This comes just a day after special constables on the TTC were outfitted with body-worn cameras recording all interactions with customers. Riders saying that many of these improvements are needed.
Better infrastructure, so a lot of the time there are outages because of something going on with the rails.
Definitely like security and definitely like paying the drivers, I think.
The plan also includes investments aimed at cutting the TTC repair backlog and new subway cars for Line 2.
Now, you heard in the report the mayor said that part of this funding would come from the property tax base. She was asked what those property taxes will look like if they will be going up when the city tables its budget. She said, we'll have to wait. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leathong. Nathan and Michelle, send it back to you.
Thank you, Sean. Still to come, trying to find a way forward. We look at the possible candidates to replace Justin Trudeau as the federal Liberals search for a new leader.
But we turn now to explosive comments by Donald Trump about what now appears to be a campaign to make Canada part of the United States.
The president-elect told reporters today he would not use the military to make that happen, but is only open to applying economic force. CTV's Joy Malbin reports.
It's a shocking statement. President-elect Donald Trump says he's considering using economic force to annex Canada and make it part of the U.S.
You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security. But why are we supporting a country, $200 billion plus a year? Our military is at their disposal. All of these other things, they should be a state. That's why I told Trudeau when he came down, I said, what would happen if we didn't do it? He said Canada would dissolve.
Trump said the U.S. should stop buying cars, lumber, and dairy from Canada, part of long-standing free trade agreements, again urging his friend, a former Canadian hockey player, to run politically.
The great one, Wayne Gretzky, I said, run for prime minister, you'll win in a It'll take 2 seconds, but he said, well, am I going to run for prime minister or governor? You tell me. I said, I don't know. Let's make it governor. I like it better.
Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau shot back. There isn't a snowball's chance in hell that Canada would become part of the United States. And it's not just Canada. As Trump's son, Don Jr., arrived in Greenland,
here as tourists, seeing it looks like an incredible place.
His father refused to rule out using military force to claim Greenland, the mineral-rich Danish territory, even as its government said it's not for sale.
They should give it up because we need it for national security. That's for the free world. I'm talking about protecting the free world. You look outside, you have China ships all over the place. You have Russian ships all over the place. We're not letting that happen.
Trump also wants to retake the Panama Canal and change the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Incredible controversial comments from the next U.S. president. Joy Malvin, CTV News, Washington.
Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister has responded. Mélanie Joly posting on X saying President-elect Trump's comments show a complete lack of understanding of what makes Canada a strong country. Our economy is strong. Our people are strong. We will never back down in the face of threats.
The Conservative leader is also reacting. Pierre Poilievre says, in part, Canada will never be the 51st state, period. We are a great and independent country. We are the best friend to the U.S. We spend billions of dollars and hundreds of lives helping Americans retaliate against al-Qaeda's 9/11 attacks. We supply the U.S. with billions of dollars of high-quality and totally reliable energy well below market prices. We buy hundreds of billions of dollars of American goods.
Also tonight, Ontario taps the OPP to help beef up border security, how officers are being used to crack down on illegal crossings, guns, and drugs.
But first, here's a look at the forecast and a live shot of the city. It's a chilly night, and the cold air is going to stick around for a few more days, so bundle up if you're heading outside. But there is some good news down the line. Lindsay Morrison's here with a look at the current conditions. Hey, Lindsay.
Hey, Nathan. There is some good news when it comes to the weekend. I hesitate to say we're in for a warm-up, but relatively speaking, we are. More on that in just a moment. First, here's a live look at the satellite and radar. Flurries are flying east of Toronto right now from Barrie over towards Stouffville and Pickering. We've got snow squalls impacting London. That's where snow squall watches, warnings, and winter weather travel advisories remain in place with heavy snow expected there over the next day or so. Now, I want to talk about these winds. They're gusty coming out of the northwest. It's contributing to the lake effect snow and, of course, the chilly air mass. It is currently -6 degrees here in the city of Toronto. With the wind chill, it feels like -14. It's going to be bitterly cold overnight tonight. We'll talk about what's in store for tomorrow coming up in your weather forecast. For now, Michelle, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. As the tariff threat from Donald Trump looms large, the province is stepping up to secure the border.
Today, announcing plans to use the OPP in an effort being called Operation Deterrence. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris joins us live with all the details. Siobhan.
Well, we ran this plan by the former commissioner of the OPP, and he doesn't think it's perfect, but he is glad to see Ontario doing something in the absence of the federal government. Ottawa's $1.3 billion plan to stave off tariffs through a beefed-up border is in limbo. So Ontario's making moves, redirecting some members of the Ontario Provincial Police.
Delivering boots on the ground is truly the only way that we'll be able to detect, deter, and disrupt illegal activities to ensure safety and security around the border.
The province has dubbed their effort Operation Deterrence, targeting areas outside Ontario's 14 official border crossings.
OPP officers, drones, aircraft, maritime vessels, particularly think of Detroit River and Lake St. Clair, K9 units, and different specialized advanced technologies.
That could be used for things like pre-screening vehicles. The former commissioner of the OPP says these spaces are a vulnerability.
Virtually unpatrolled and unenforced areas that allow tons of stuff to come into this country, and at other times, people going into the U.S. and maybe some fentanyl.
But Lewis warns this is only a border Band-Aid.
The OPP just can't come up with 200 bodies to ultimately do this full time because they'll be taken away from something else.
And there are limits to what police can do.
The OPP and municipal police don't have the authorities under some of the federal laws relating to customs and immigration, smuggling and whatnot, that the feds do.
So there has to be collaboration with the Mounties, the Canada Border Services Agency, organizations under federal control.
The last thing we want is for the tariffs that are being proposed to impact our economy and lead to job loss in our community.
A fear that isn't being quieted as Donald Trump's return to the White House grows ever closer.
Tomorrow afternoon, premiers from across Canada will be on a virtual call to talk strategy in face of that tariff threat and talk about an upcoming trip to Washington. They're still hoping for an in-person meeting with the Prime Minister sometime next week. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. There's been another encampment fire downtown. One person was taken to hospital this morning after the fire at Glasgow and Cecil. Toronto firefighters say they were called to the encampment just before 8 a.m. The fire was extinguished, and the person taken to hospital had to be treated in a hyperbaric chamber. It's the third encampment fire in less than a week. There was one last night near Queen's Park and a separate fire at an encampment near Fort York last Thursday night. Fire Chief Jim Jessup says it's a challenge for many cities.
Well, I mean, this is not only a Toronto problem, this is a problem across North America. I've spoken to peers from Vancouver and some of the cities in the United States as well. Toronto Fire Service has taken an incredibly proactive and collaborative approach with a number of city divisions, especially Toronto Shelter Division, and we will continue to do so. We attend the encampments. We have public educators go out and provide education material on how to prevent fires. We actually, when we attend these sites, if we note flammable, combustible liquids, we will remove them. But it's unfortunately, as the weather gets colder and stays cold, we anticipate having more of these fires.
Meantime, a fire last March which destroyed a Toronto Island landmark has been deemed accidental. The blaze destroyed the Island Cafe and Wards Island Association building. The finding, released in a report, found the fire started below the building near the cafe's kitchen. The report concludes the cause of the fire was likely electrical, caused by a staple and a severed wire. The structure, which was mostly made of wood, was built in the 1930s.
We turn to new information emerging about a former Canadian Olympian turned suspected drug lord.
Fugitive Ryan Wedding is being sought by American authorities and has also been linked to the murder of a couple in the GTA. CTV's Raheem Ladani has more on what court documents reveal.
U.S. prosecutors say they're worried alleged cocaine kingpin and Canadian fugitive Ryan James Wedding may target their confidential informants as California prosecutors work to bring down an international drug ring. New court filings say this is a complex case involving a sophisticated drug trafficking organization whose leaders have shown a callous disregard for human life, including, as charged in the superseding indictment, deploying hitmen to execute perceived rivals or enemies. Wedding, a former Olympic snowboarder, and fellow Canadian Andrew Clark are believed to be the leaders. The pair have been charged with 4 murders and 1 attempted murder, including the slaying of a couple in Caledon in 2023, which investigators say was a case of mistaken identity. The crimes are allegedly connected to the distribution of 1,800 kilograms of cocaine from Mexico through the U.S. to Canada. Prosecutors say they have recordings made by confidential informants. The defense wants all information of cooperating witnesses to be shared with any member of its team. Prosecutors object, saying that scope is too wide, arguing it contains personal identity information and may expose them to potential safety risks. While Clark and 13 others are in custody, Wedding is still on the lam. Court filings outline Wedding is at large, presumably with the same access to encrypted means of communication and network of hitmen that enabled the charged murders. None of the allegations have been proven in court. Raheem Ladani, CTV News.
Turning to the resignation of Justin Trudeau, one of the looming issues the next Liberal leader will have to tackle is the Donald Trump presidency and his threat of 25% tariffs on all Canadian goods.
The race to replace Prime Minister Trudeau isn't officially underway, but someone's already declared their candidacy. Senior political correspondent Mike LeCouture has the latest from Ottawa.
While a number of contenders are weighing their options, we have our first declared candidate.
I believe in Canada, and I'm optimistic about our future.
Former Member of Parliament Frank Bayliss believes his 35 years as an entrepreneur will help him in a leadership race.
My success in business is something that appeals to a lot of people, and seeing can we bring that to the federal government.
There's a growing list of potential candidates, including former Bank of Canada Governor Mark Carney, saying in a statement to CTV News that he's encouraged and honored by the support that I've already been hearing from Liberal MPs and Liberals across the country, adding I'll be considering this decision closely with my family over the coming few days. Now, the process Liberals will use to choose a new leader is also under the microscope.
A stain on our electoral process.
In her initial report on foreign interference, Justice Marie-Josée Hogg said there's a need for tighter rules on voting eligibility for nomination contests. To register with the Liberals, a person must be 14 years old, support the party, and live in Canada or be qualified to vote from abroad. But the length of the leadership contest could help protect it from interference.
Many of those who might have engaged in foreign interference, many of the foreign actors, would be much more careful around this because it is such a public issue at this juncture.
In a statement to CTV News, the Liberal Party of Canada said protecting the democratic process is a foremost priority, adding they'll provide more details about the leadership process once the rules have been set. Mike Lecouteur, CTV News, Ottawa.
It's not just federal politicians waiting to see when the next election will take place. Ontario's premier is also watching closely.
The challenges with the volunteers and with the fundraising and the donors and the machinery. The progressive Conservatives provincially in Ontario and the federal Conservatives, they draw from the same volunteer pool. Same with the two branches of the Liberal Party. So no party wants to be running a war on two fronts, an election in two jurisdictions, because they depend on the same people, and those people will get tired.
Political and business consultant Mark Toohey says he believes Premier Ford would like to send Ontarians to the polls early this spring. Toohey says if the federal election is held in May, Ford could call a provincial election for March or April. In Ontario, election campaigns last 28 days. The next provincial election is scheduled for June 4th of 2026. However, the Premier may call an election before that date. Speaking to reporters yesterday, Ford refused to rule out calling an early election.
The Prime Minister proroguing Parliament for the second time has brought the longest session of a minority parliament in Canadian history to an end. But in doing so, has also put several major bills on hold. CTV's Rachel Aiello has the details.
And it's time for a reset.
Defending his decision to prorogue, Justin Trudeau said Parliament has been paralyzed for months. But not bringing MPs back to work in Ottawa until March 24th means key law changes the Liberals promised may never become a reality.
Effectively speaking, all of the parliamentary business ends.
Among the unfulfilled government pledges are the $250 checks for working Canadians, expanded gun control measures, plus legislation to crack down on online harms and make citizenship and electoral rule changes. While these measures could be reinstated if other parties agree, that looks unlikely, as today the opposition accused the government of using the parliamentary tactic to squash a committee's plans to expedite the next non-confidence motion.
Rather than allow that to happen, Justin Trudeau has selfishly shut down Parliament to avoid accountability.
During prorogation, the Prime Minister and his cabinet remain in their roles, which is how the government says it can carry on with enacting elements of the Canada-US border plan. But the CRA's plan to still enact new capital gains rules based only on proposed legislation is perplexing to some.
I think it would be inappropriate, and again I use the word disrespectful to Parliament, to actually proceed in a manner that would not recognize the need for a full and proper debate.
The Finance Department says when Parliament resumes, if no bill passes to make the tax change law, they'd stop enforcing it, which may be the likeliest outcome, as the government could fall soon after the spring speech from the throne. Rachel Aiello, CTV News, Ottawa.
Meanwhile, the president of the United States said he is proud to call Justin Trudeau a friend. Joe Biden spoke with the prime minister yesterday and released a statement today. It reads in part, over the last decade, Prime Minister Trudeau has led with commitment, optimism, and strategic vision. The U.S.-Canada alliance is stronger because of him. The American and Canadian people are safer because of him, and the world is better off because of him. Ireland and Japan thanked Trudeau for his service. The UK government also issued a statement.
Tributes have begun in Washington ahead of Jimmy Carter's funeral this week. Members of Congress paid their respects at a service this afternoon. The body of America's 39th president arrived today after lying in repose at the Cathedral Presidential Center in Atlanta since Saturday. 3 days of state funeral rites have now begun in the Capitol. Carter will lie in state tonight and tomorrow. His funeral will be held Thursday at Washington National Cathedral. Prime Minister Trudeau will attend, and U.S. President Joe Biden will deliver a eulogy. Carter died December 29th at the age of 100.
A strong earthquake struck a region of western China and areas of Nepal today. At least 126 people were killed in Tibet. More than 1,000 homes were damaged in the sparsely populated region. Many people were trapped as dozens of aftershocks shook the area. Soldiers, police officers, and firefighters have been deployed to assist in rescue efforts. About 22,000 disaster relief items, including tents, coats, and beds, have also been deployed. The magnitude 6.8 earthquake hit the northern foothills of the Himalayas. State media reported that at least 188 people were injured in Tibet.
Families of passengers killed on Ukraine International Airlines Flight 752 are marking an emotional anniversary.
It's been 5 years since the crash that killed 176 people. The flight from Tehran to Kyiv was shot down by Iran's military shortly after takeoff. CTV's Janice Goulding has more on how the victims are being remembered.
Anguished cries cut through the air at the York Cemetery and Funeral Center. Family members still keenly feeling the loss of loved ones. 176 people killed 5 years ago aboard Ukraine International Airlines Flight 752.
There was 177 with this baby.
Shima and Saper lost their sister, brother-in-law, 3-year-old nephew, and unborn nephew who was due 2 months later, aboard the doomed flight that was struck down by 2 surface-to-air missiles launched by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps.
All the days I have pain.
Pain visible on the faces of all who gathered today, who say they can't believe they still have no justice for their relatives or their families. Mazgan Tagaza lost her husband and the father of her 2 children, Dr. Farhad Niknam.
Every day they just miss their dad. Every day just crying and just say, where is my dad? Where is he? Why we don't have that? Why everybody has that, but we don't? You know, what should I answer?
Days after the attack, the Iranian government admitted the IRGC was responsible, but called it an accident, saying the Iranian military had mistakenly identified the plane as an American cruise missile.
The Iranian regime did this intentionally, and we would like to see who ordered it, why they ordered it, and why they did it.
Salume Tamasebi flew in from London, England for today's memorials, here to remember her 35-year-old brother, Saeed Tamasebi, who had just gotten married 3 weeks earlier.
You just tortured all these family members you can see here.
Tamasebi's bride, 34-year-old Nilufar Ibrahim, also killed. Today, Ibrahim's sister spoke out about her enduring heartache.
So hard to believe that they're not here. They didn't even see these pictures and videos after their wedding. So it's really difficult to even begin to comprehend that.
Last fall, a group representing Canada, Ukraine, Sweden, and the UK filed a memorial with the International Court of Justice accusing Iran of not conducting a transparent investigation. But while proceedings advance, 5 years later, these families have been left without answers and without closure. To give you some scope of the losses Canadian families have suffered, the memorials that took place here today in the GTA are being replicated in 6 other cities across the country in the coming days. Janice Goulding, CTV News.
Bitter cold weather continues in the U.S., this time in the southern states. A polar vortex brought sub-freezing temperatures, threatening to dump snow on parts of Texas and Oklahoma in the coming days. A cold weather advisory has been issued for the Gulf Coast and pushed the temperature in El Paso to below freezing. The cold front moved southward today after ice, snow, and wind hit much of the U.S. east of the Rockies over the weekend. It caused hundreds of car accidents and thousands of flight cancellations and delays.
Millions of Orthodox Christians around the world are celebrating Christmas. In Ethiopia, thousands of people attended prayers and midnight mass. They were dressed in an all-white traditional attire to mark the birth of Jesus Christ and to mark the end of a fast. The Christians also joined family members to break the 43-day fasting period. They use the Julian calendar, in which Christmas falls on January 7th.
Got home improvement plans this new year? The province wants to make your home more energy efficient, offering big savings for upgrades. Coming up, the new energy rebate program launching this month.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, a new survey on finances is showing a troubling picture for many Canadians. More consumers plan to take on additional debt this year, and some say they're having trouble paying their bills and loans. I'll have that story. That's just it.
So cold Arctic air has moved into Ontario, but as mentioned, also parts of the United States. For example, it's only 3 degrees right now in Dallas, Texas, and that is the forecast low tonight in Tampa, Florida. Pretty chilly. Speaking of, we're going to talk about just how cold it will be here at home tomorrow morning. That's coming up. And stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
Inflation, the cost of groceries, and housing continue to be leading concerns for many Canadians struggling to pay their bills.
A new survey finds 82% of those asked worry about inflation, and 44% expect their finances to be worse in the years ahead. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Nathan and Michelle. The survey by TransUnion found 1 in 4 people say they might not be able to pay all their bills in 2025. More consumers also don't expect their income to increase, so they plan to take on more debt in the year ahead. The cost of housing, groceries, and just about everything else has gone up over the past few years. It seems everyone is doing what they can to avoid digging themselves further into debt.
Anything to avoid it, but we have an 18-year-old car, so we'll see what happens.
Credit card debts, it's going up all the time. That's coming down.
I think a lot of it comes down to is the opportunity that you have and the chances you have to be able to save money.
I was telling my family maybe it's time for us to find somewhere else to go because it's too expensive to live here in Toronto.
The consumer debt survey by TransUnion found 1 in 5 Canadians plan to take on more debt in 2025. 43% plan to apply for a new credit card. High housing prices remain a concern for 57% of those asked, and 15% are considering refinancing their property.
There's certainly a segment of Canadians that are using credit to substitute for cash flow where maybe cost of debt is high.
Credit counseling services say many are taking on more debt as they struggle with the high cost of living.
It is really concerning to us to see the number of Canadians who feel forced to apply for new cards or to get an increase in the limit on their line of credit.
Bruce Sellery with Credit Canada says last month was one of the largest increases in a decade of consumers reaching out for help.
In the month of December alone, we saw a 65% increase in the number of people who do what's called a debt consolidation program.
The survey also found consumers are doing what they can to save money by trying to reduce spending, build up savings, and pay down debt. TransUnion says political uncertainty could also affect finances for many in 2025.
What's going to happen with the tariff situation, which might impact certain industries and certain regions in Canada.
And if you're finding it difficult to pay your bills and are taking on more debt, you may want to speak with a credit counseling service. It's free, confidential, and they can let you know your options to help you manage your money. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Oh, it is cold. It's so cold that if you happen to run out of freezer space. You can just put the food outside. It's good as long as no animals get at it.
You know, I have done that. You can just leave drinks outside.
Why not?
In the garage. Why put it in the fridge when it's freezing outside? It's like a freezer.
You have to be careful, though. Things freeze in this kind of weather, too. So there is that. And we are in for a pretty freezing night tonight and start of tomorrow as well. But just for fun, I wanted to show you something. While we are experiencing bitter cold here in Ontario, look at what our friends in Victoria, BC are enjoying. Yes, those are cherry blossoms. They're beginning to bloom on Vancouver Island. It has been a relatively warm winter so far in this part of Canada, especially when it comes to the overnight lows. Well, the buds, though, are a sign of spring. I can assure you there is still plenty of winter to come. Yes, even in Victoria, most likely. And we here in Ontario, we are feeling winter. We are experiencing January. The current temperature in Toronto is -7 degrees, but the wind chill is -16. Look at that. Wind chill -30 in Timmins and close to -40 in Peawanuck in the northern part of our province. So Arctic air is here. It's going to be here for the next couple of days. Tomorrow will feel especially cold. Into the weekend, some improvement. We're going to rebound to more seasonal values, but we do have to get through tonight and tomorrow, especially before we can experience that. So -12, that's our forecast overnight low for tonight. That's what it's going to be like when we're waking up early tomorrow morning and feel closer to -20. Tomorrow at a glance, mainly cloudy skies at times. I am expecting some sunny breaks as well in many areas. By the afternoon, we should climb to around -7. That is still well below seasonal. It will be colder than what it felt like at the height of the day today. Now, here's the active weather that some areas are dealing with. I just want to zoom in a little bit closer here to the GTA. Earlier on, it was areas west of Toronto seeing some light snow. Now it's areas to the east and still to the north, areas to the southeast of Georgian Bay as well as Lake Huron. Snow squall watches and warnings remain in place, especially around London. Up to 25 centimeters of snow going to be possible by about this time tomorrow and perhaps into Thursday, so keeping an eye on that. It's great for ski hills in and around Georgian Bay, that's for sure. But you'll notice that the lake effect bands start to taper off, especially into tomorrow night, even more so into Thursday. Friday overnight and into the day on Saturday. We're going to keep an eye on this for perhaps a trace to a couple of centimeters of snow around southern Ontario. That could include us here in Toronto. And there's that temperature rebound. So daytime highs of around -2. That's average for this time of year. But it already looks as though we could be in for another cool down through the middle part of next week, too. That's your look at the forecast for now. Michelle, I'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Lindsay. Also tonight, hailed as heroes for incredible acts of bravery. Firefighters who risk their lives to save lives get recognition from Toronto's new chief. Making energy-efficient upgrades to your home could put some money back in your pocket.
Today, the province announced details of a new rebate program. CTV's Beth McDonnell reports on how you can unlock the savings for your house.
Okay, we're looking here. Eyes here first. Thank you.
With celebrity builder Mike Holmes on hand at a materials supplier in Scarborough, Energy Minister Stephen Lecce announced a new program for homeowners to save on energy-efficient upgrades.
But really what sets this program apart is its simplicity and its scope. Because unlike programs of the past, this rebate will be available to all homeowners, regardless of how they heat their homes.
The Home Renovation Savings Program starts January 28th and offers project rebates of up to 30% on everything from windows, doors, insulation, smart thermostats, heat pumps, rooftop solar panels, and battery storage systems, with energy-efficient appliances to be added later in 2025.
I'm excited about this solar battery backup system. We've come a long way in the last 10 years. We can easily put 80K of backup power in our home from simple solar panels, not a lot of solar panels, and actually run your home.
Lecce says there's no need to wait to sign up. Homeowners can do it now at saveonenergy.ca. As Ontario's population grows, the rebates aim to meet energy needs and make power affordable.
A family spending, looking to keep themselves warm over the winter by upgrading their insulation, their windows and doors. They'd receive a rebate of up to $88,900 for insulation and $100 for every door, for every window that they will replace.
The government says all rebates must be paid on time after a complete program application is approved, and there isn't a limit on the number of energy-efficient upgrades a homeowner can make. Over the next 12 years, the government believes returns on all of its efficiency programs will be the equivalent of taking off 3 million homes from the grid. Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
Canada Post has returned to full service for domestic parcels, but it says Canadians should continue to expect delivery delays of several days for letters, bills, and statements. The Crown Corporation is also warning of delays for incoming international items as it works through the backlog. The mail started moving again late last month following a month-long strike around the holidays.
After the break, Toronto home sales were dim in December, but are sunnier skies ahead. What the housing market's expected to bring this spring coming up.
We're making the TTC the better way. One step, one station, one bus stop at a time.
Can Toronto improve transit without transferring the cost?
Tonight, a new year, a new spending plan. The TTC reveals its route to a better commute. Good evening. The city's promising to freeze fares in 2025.
And improve the ride for people who rely on this service. But where will the money come from? CTV's Sean Leathong joins us live with the details. Sean.
Well, Michelle and Nathan, the money is not coming from people's pockets. They say that the service is going to go up, so the cost is going to fall on the city.
There will be better service, cleaner stations, and a fare freeze. Mayor Olivia Chow saying,
We're making the TTC the better way. One step, one station, one bus stop at a time.
the total cost of the proposed 2025 TTC budget is $2.819 billion. That's an increase of $85.1 million or 6.5%. Chow saying they'll be able to pay for the increase through the property tax base, and
the rest of the gross dollars come from a combination of provincial investment through the New Deal and also for transit riders, because the more people take public transit, guess what? The more revenue we're going to get.
The actual breakdown, according to the budget, is 49% city funding, 38% passenger revenue, 7% provincial funding, with 4% and 2% from ancillary revenue and reserves. The plan to increase service includes hiring more operators to help a guarantee of 5-minute subway service in off-peak hours along lines 1 and 2, along with a return to 6-minute service on line 4. A guarantee of 6-minute service for streetcars along Dundas, St. Clair, and Bathurst, all to be in place by the fall. There's also the expectation that both the Eglinton Crosstown LRT and Finch West LRT will open this year. As for buses,
you know how infuriating it is when the buses are bunched together? And you wait and wait and wait and nothing comes, and then boom, 3 of them showed up at the same time.
The TTC aims to create a pilot project that will focus on the 10 worst routes for bus bunching, and
we're actually going to fix our stations. Everybody talks about it, but now we're actually going to do it.
With $50 million for station rehabilitation, including creating a new position of station manager to ensure each station runs smoothly, and a particular focus on 6 stations: Kennedy, Scarborough Town Centre, Lansdowne, Dundas, Finch, and Spadina.
And this is also the first time in a budget we've actually set a target to reduce fare evasion by $12 million.
This comes just a day after special constables on the TTC were outfitted with body-worn cameras recording all interactions with customers. Riders saying that many of these improvements are needed.
Better infrastructure, so a lot of the time there are outages.
We're making the TTC the better way. One step, one station, one bus stop at a time.
Updating our top stories, the TTC is proposing a $2.8 billion budget for 2025 to improve service. The mayor says it'll be paid for through the property tax base and a combination of provincial investment and revenue from increased ridership.
You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security.
Donald Trump said today he is open to using what he called economic force in a bid to convince Canada to join the United States. The Prime Minister and other Canadian officials says this is a non-starter. Justin Trudeau will be convening a meeting with premiers next week in Ottawa to discuss Canada-U.S. relations.
Putting boots on the ground is truly the only way that we'll be able to detect, deter, and disrupt illegal activities.
Ontario is redirecting some members of the OPP to secure our border with the U.S. A number of areas considered vulnerable outside official border crossings will be the focus of what's being called Operation Deterrence. It's in response to Donald Trump's threat to impose tariffs on Canadian goods.
Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have a news tip, photos, or video of breaking news, let us know.
The outgoing U.S. administration is stepping up its pressure on firms said to be linked to the Chinese military. Andrew Bell of B&M Bloomberg has the details in business.
Hello there. Investors grabbed U.S.-listed shipping stocks today after Washington blacklisted China's biggest cargo line, COSCO Shipping, citing links to the People's Liberation Army. The blacklist does not impose immediate penalties, but it is seen as a warning that may discourage American companies from dealing with Chinese entities. Technology provider Tencent and CATL, the giant battery company that supplies Tesla, were also named. The moves are seen as part of the struggle between the two superpowers for technological and economic dominance. On the markets, the Canadian dollar changed hands at 69.65 US cents, down about 0.1 cent. West Texas Intermediate oil was at $74.25, up 69 cents. Western Canadian Select oil, by our latest fix, $60.91, down 7 cents. And the TSX Composite ended at 24,929.89, down just under 70 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of B&N Bloomberg.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Pearson Airport says it welcomed more new airlines last year than any other large airport in North America. According to officials, Pearson added 8 new carriers in 2024 that provide a variety of direct flights to passengers. It also added 36 new routes and 9 new destinations. Pearson is now home to 54 airlines that offer trips to more than 180 destinations around the world. Pearson says it is North America's best connected airport for international destinations.
The latest real estate numbers are out for Toronto and the GTA, and there was a decline in December compared to the same period a year earlier. CTV's Mike Walker has more on the impact on buyers and sellers, including a projection of what's expected in the months ahead.
Across the GTA, home sales have dipped, and so too have prices. Not surprising, says real estate agent Gus Papaioannou, who also points to an oversaturated condo market.
The market's been pretty flat. Just listings are a lot higher. There's a lot of choice for buyers right now.
The Toronto Regional Real Estate Board reports more than 3,300 homes were sold in December, down 1.8% from the same time a year ago. Borrowing costs a big factor.
We're seeing a lot of inventory in the marketplace and obviously not as many buyers as high interest rates impacted the affordability perspective, especially first-time buyers.
The average selling price, $1.067 million, also a slight drop compared to 2023. December is typically a slow month, but experts say right now buyers have more power to negotiate.
Bidding wars, they've come and gone with the exception of a couple neighborhoods and a couple home types such as detached. You can take your time, you can do your due diligence, you can even go visit the home twice if you want to.
So looking at the market watch, Papaioannou says central Toronto, including the core, remains a hot spot.
These neighborhoods that have highly rated schools, transit, walkability will always be sought after.
To the east, he says there are more affordable options.
Even if you're willing to go to the edge of Scarborough or into Scarborough, you can find homes in that $1 million mark, whether it's a semi-detached or possibly even a detached bungalow that needs a lot of work.
The total number of homes sold was outpaced significantly by new listings last year, giving buyers more choice. But the Real Estate Board notes the market has benefited from the Bank of Canada's interest rate cuts. Experts anticipate the market will pick up in the spring.
We're going to see more and more of these would-be first-time buyers actually get active in the marketplace again.
Especially with more interest rate relief anticipated this year. Mike Walker, CTV News.
To sports, the Toronto Maple Leafs visit Philadelphia tonight in the back half of a home-and-home set.
Riley, catch it up. Here's Morgan Riley. Scores! Game winner! Morgan Riley!
Toronto's on a 4-game winning streak after beating the Flyers 3-2 in overtime Sunday. The Leafs are leading the Atlantic Division 4 points ahead of Florida. They're in Carolina on Thursday.
Stacey, she's going to put on the speed. On a breakaway, Laura Stacey, she scores!
Meanwhile, the Toronto Scepters will play in a neutral site game tomorrow night. They face Montreal in the PWHL's first game in British Columbia as part of the league's Takeover Tour, intended to showcase women's pro hockey, as well as testing possible expansion markets.
Turnover, here's Scotty. Bars a windmill dunk on a Monday night at the bank.
The injury-hampered Raptors had a full starting lineup for the first time this season last night against the Milwaukee Bucks. Scotty Barnes had 21 points. R.J. Barrett scored 25, but the Raps fell 128-104. Last night's blowout loss was their second in a row. The Raptors face the Knicks in New York tomorrow night. And just ahead, top honors from Toronto's new fire chief, a group of firefighters recognized for their bravery, how they saved several people trapped amid a devastating boat crash.
Tonight, Donald Trump's grand plan for Canada and the threat behind it.
They should be a state economic force.
Prime Minister Trudeau fires back as the U.S. president-elect ups the ante on his annexation scheme. Later on CTV National News.
And a reminder, the CTV News at 6 podcast is available to download every weeknight, and a special What's Up to those of you listening to the newscast live on News Talk 1010.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Finally tonight, recognizing heroic acts of bravery.
Today, Toronto's new fire chief honored members of a fire station 313 who stepped up to save lives during a deadly boat crash 2.5 years ago. CTV's John Musselman has the story.
Newly appointed Fire Chief Jim Jessup made a personal visit to this fire hall at Bloor and Sherbourne today. He was here to honor the members of Squad 313 for their heroic actions that saved 4 people. It happened after a devastating boat crash on May 31st, 2022 on the waterfront near Leslie Street. The 30-foot fiberglass boat was capsized in 5 feet of water after hitting a break wall. Firefighters deployed rescue measures to free the people trapped inside.
The crew used a K-12 saw to cut through the hull of the boat to extricate the 4 trapped victims. The actions of Squad 313 on D Platoon employed incredible skill and daring and directly saved 4 citizens that day.
In total, 8 people were rescued that night with assistance from the Toronto Police Marine Unit. Sadly, 2 other people trapped inside the overturned boat did not survive. Fire Captain Brian Porter says he's proud of the squad members.
There was a lot of hazards. The boat was running. There was fuel in the water. There was a lot of sort of issues, immediate threats to those people's lives. And if they hadn't been removed when they were, there may have been more fatalities at that call.
You're going to hear first responders say that's their job. But when you hear of incidents like this that are unique, that candidly put themselves at great risk that evening, speaking to the crews and speaking to the incident commander, it is really important that we do recognize their extraordinary actions above and beyond what they are normally expected to do, and to say thank you.
The squad members were presented with a team citation for their efforts. John Musselman, CTV News.
Congratulations to them. Okay, so we've got some big numbers in the weather graphics tonight, below 0.
Oh, yes. Right now it is -7 degrees in the city of Toronto, and it's not going to get any warmer than that at any point tomorrow. And in fact, the temperature is going to continue to fall through the night tonight. Here's one more look, and I also want to show you the satellite and radar imagery. Still getting some light snow in York region as well as Durham. And on the island, you'll notice that it's quite chilly as well. Overnight low, -12, wind chill, -19. And then tomorrow, it's going to feel like the minus teens right through the day. Variable cloudiness to mostly cloudy skies. And then in the 7-day, we do hope to see a little more in the way of sun for Thursday. Temperature is going to slowly start to rebound to highs of around -2 degrees over the weekend. Still watching Friday into Saturday for maybe a trace to a couple of centimeters of snow, possibly to kick off the weekend. Nathan and Michelle.
Thanks, Lindsay. That's it for us, but you can join Omar Sachedina at 11 tonight for CTV National News, followed by Natalie Johnson with your next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here at CTV News, thanks for watching and have a great night.